Just wanted to share some extra footage that Rex had sent me when they were putting up the barbed wire on the fence posts. This is the old-fashioned way to roll the barbed wire in the Philippines. We did try to get the galvanized rolls of barbed wire, so hopefully they'll last a few years. Never know what you get though at the hardware store. They will tell you a lot of times it's galvanized, and they'll sneak in a roll or two that is just regular, and you'll never know until the weather starts to really work on them what is regular and what is galvanized, because within a month or two the regular is black and rusted out. So you take your chance, you take a gamble, you pay the top price, and you might get a roll or two snuck in that's just below quality of what you paid for. That's the Philippines. Anyways, basically they're starting to roll the first of the 5 or 6 barbed wire fencing that we had talked about. Now, this fencing design was actually came about after meeting with Tonton and talking with my niece and trying to figure out the fastest way we can erect a good fence, not really to keep people out, but to keep the animals from wandering in and eating up all the trees and the new coconut trees, fruit trees that we're planning to put into the lot. So at some point, hopefully, we will be able to replace that barbed wire fence into a more permanent cement and cyclone wire fence at some point. But right now, the main idea is to keep the cows, the water buffaloes, from coming in and just eating the newly planted trees and fruit trees. Here, Rex has sent me a video of, the cleaning that they had done. So this is basically fresh grass cutting. As you can see, there's Tonton running across. I'm so glad these two guys get along. They've been with me for quite a long time. Rex has been with my family for probably more than 25 years. And Tonton has been with us probably for about 8 or 10 years. Really cool guys, very trustworthy, hardworking. Definitely they're hardworking, and they have a lot of connections. I would be lost without Rex, Tonton, and Cheryl when I go home. They are the people that I heavily rely on to get things done and help me get those things accomplished. Here they're using I think this is what's called a come-along, to basically stretch the barbed wire nice and tight. They're using that mature coconut tree as an anchor to start ratcheting up and putting tension on the barbed wire. As you can see, all the round posts are uniform, and we have the main post that anchors the entire project. I think we have about 11 of them altogether, including the 2 columns for the gate. The gate, I have decided, I've designed the gate, and I've sent the plans over, and Tonton and his crew of welders will be working on that soon. Sorry for this little bit of a bad video on this clip. This is my niece's camera, and what she's doing is she's giving us a a walking tour, starting from the rear of the property, overlooking the cliff. If you've seen some of my videos in the past, the drone shot, you will see that under this cliff is that raging river that's eating away at the property on the rear. We had decided to not fence this part of the property because there is a 30 to 60 foot drop into the river. So we didn't fence that part, but we did fence where the property was lower towards the river with barbed wire. I figured if they can cross the river and they can climb up 60 feet and then, scale that wall, and then they're welcome to whatever coconuts they can steal. Give them the effort. Give them the prize for the effort. Here she's still doing a walking tour of the lot, and again, apologize for the video quality, but still lots to be done. Always lots of rubbish to be cleaned and burned. That's the way we clean the property. We basically have piles and piles of rubbish, whether it's from the old trees, old fronds from the coconuts that have fallen, grass clippings from the grass cutting, dried branches, twigs, you name it, it's piled up, and then we go ahead and burn them. Sorry about this particular clip. I think she'd forgotten that she had the camera on and had pointed it towards the ground. For all those that have vertigo, give it a few seconds. She does get her bearings back, and you are looking now at the left part of the property that's bordering my neighbor Larmy, who you've met in my previous earlier videos. And so this is where we had put those ugly square columns that were originally put in by the original careless taker, is what I call him. We took that from the front of the property, relocated them to the side of the property so they were out of sight, and because they were kind of unsightly, they're really ugly rectangular form columns, but I didn't want to throw them away. They were completely good for fence posts, so we strung them along the side of the neighbor's border, and we left the orange circular or round columns, PVC columns, and put them in the front. So not only is it aesthetically pleasing to the eye, but you're on my property once you see those orange fence columns that line the frontage. Again, this is the front of the property, and I think you are looking at some of the columns that are being formed for the gate. Now, the gate that I designed will be all metal, and it will be about 9 feet tall, because I am planning at some point to make that front into a cement and cyclone wire fencing. But that won't be in the future. One particular thing that I learned from watching the start of the fence build, as we use the earth auger drill, I realized that the ground here is not really rich or fertile. There is basically like a 3 to 4 inch layer maybe of good soil, and then underneath that is basically red clay. So in some areas there only might be 1 inch or 2 of good soil, and that was evident when we drilled down with the earth auger and we pulled up mostly red clay, 2.5 feet down, and about 2 to 3 inches after the black dirt, mostly clay. So there is plans, and we are going to fertilize artificially, the trees and the coconuts. In this shot, you are looking at the right side of the property, going down towards the side of the hill, and as you can see, all those trees in the back there are on the other side of the property. And then you are now looking at some of the formed columns that are still waiting to dry out. This video clip was sent to me by my niece using a different camera, and this is now a video clip of father using the grass cutter. The grass cutting needs to be done almost every 3 weeks. You wait any longer than that, like a month to 5 weeks, and you are dealing with grass and fern and crawling weeds that are about knee-high after 5 weeks. And a lot of the crawling weeds will come around the newly planted trees, newly planted plants that Rex is trying to grow, and they'll come up and literally wrap around and choke the life out of them. They're very, very tough weeds on the plants. They literally choke the life out of the plants. They will wrap around like the steel wires, and you're constantly fighting with that. So grass cutting needs to be done every 3 weeks. And because we're only using one grass cutter right now, we basically have to take about 6 to 7 days to complete the grass cutting. Here you're seeing Rex. What he's doing is basically he's transplanting carabao grass from the bottom of the property to the top front of the property. What we're trying to do is get this type of grass down here on this picture to grow up on top of the plateau, and that's what we're doing. Here you can see how nicely they did the fencing. This fencing follows the survey that we did. This is very accurate. We did a satellite survey or resurvey using the mother title and using satellite navigation to pinpoint the exact location of the markers. And then within 2-3 days, I put a fence down after they located the markers for me. Funny thing about the Philippines, seems like every surveyor has a different survey, and every landowner needs to prove where their property lines are. So I did invite both of my border neighbors to come and join the survey so they could see that the survey is, number one, scientifically accurate because they're using GPS satellite navigation, and number two, they can follow along where the markers were laid so they know where I'll be putting my fence. So there's no question, no one got cheated, not even 1 square centimeter of property on either side. And you have to make sure that your surveyor, number one, has the right equipment, is there when they do the survey, is licensed, and has a reputation to uphold. If he doesn't have any of those requirements, keep walking. Keep looking. Make sure you've got the right surveyor. Here's Rex's little daughter. You know, she's having a great time under the bamboo trees. You know, basically, they've turned this jungle into a playground now. You know, no snakes, no rats, no animals, nothing you could get yourself hurt with. And you know, Rex has two little girls, and they come, they have a great time playing, and hopefully at some point they'll have a great time picking fruit and other things on this property. In this shot, you are looking at the rear of the property again, next to the river. At some point here, I'm going to open this up, put a gate so we can have access to the river. So in that way, in the summertime, you can go swimming. I do have some plans for this area here. Again, Tonton did a fantastic job locating the fence, getting that barbed wire in. You know, like I said, it won't stop thieves, but at least it'll slow them down so they're not going in there with a ox cart and taking coconuts by the cartfuls. They might be able to take one or two sacks and slip it through the barbed wire. I'll take that rather than cartfuls of coconuts and other things that they used to steal from the property. This is the area that I love the most, or one of the areas I love the most of the property. This is the area where it's about 10 degrees cooler. It's on the bottom part of the property. It's got a beautiful treetop canopy that keeps this area feeling really fresh, nice and cool, and it's adjacent to the river. I have plans for this part of the property. I will get access to the river by opening a gate in there so we can have some nice picnics and an area to swim. As Cheryl is walking, she's taking us from the rear of the property to the right side of the property, and I think once she comes out of this canopy area, you're going to see an opening to the lower part of the property where we have a lot of water. And I don't mean water like standing water, but a lot of the water rolls down from the cliff or the hill of this side of the property and settles down at the bottom. So there's lush green grass that we've been taking and transplanting from this area up to the top, which I call the plateau or the high area of the property, hoping that we can get the fern under control by putting grass in, and the grass will outgrow and overgrow the fern. The fern is just, boy, is it a tough weed to control. This shot, you are looking at the front of the property where they were, on the previous shot, rolling the barbed wire. Here they've already got about 5 or 6 strands tightened and just waiting for the design of the gate. As you can see, there's a gray gate across from me. That is the neighbor's gate. It's pretty huge. You could probably fit a 12 or a 16 wheeler in there. Just absolutely insane. Funny thing about it is that it's a huge gate, but on each side of it, the barbed wire is laying on the ground. So what's the purpose? You could walk in anytime. It's nuts. So here we are. Cheryl is taking a walk across the front of the property. This area here, we are planning to put mahogany trees. As you know, mahogany trees are at a premium in the Philippines. They are a beautiful hardwood. It takes about 8 to 12 years, depending on the soil conditions, for them to mature. And each tree can fetch between 8 to 12,000 peso. depending on how large and how tall and what quality they have. So this area I'm planning on planting mahogany, and I've already sourced out a mahogany distributor in this part of the Philippines in Bicol. Super nice guy, and seems like he's got enough of a supply line to feed me once I start to order those trees.
This portion was with near the property of Ate Lerma.
So we pretty much come full circle with Cheryl's tour, because I asked her to give me a video of the fence. I wanted to see the fencing. As you can see here, again, we relocated the ugly cement post. There were 33 of them. We relocated it on the side of our neighbor Larmy, side that you can't see from the street. Um, they're good fence posts, just ugly. As you can see, our side we're trying to maintain, and on the other side, that's how they maintain lots in the Philippines. Basically, it's impassable, or just it's a mess. I don't even know how they harvest coconuts. I mean, they must be tripping all over themselves. We're trying to get this lot to where your harvesting coconuts is easy as one, two, three. You're not going to be stepping on rubbish. You're not going to be stepping on branches. You're not going to be stepping on, um, low cut brush. You're not going to be hurting yourself. And this is where we want to be. This picture right here. This one was sent to me by Rex after they cleared part of the property using, their bolo and their grass cutting. Um, and this is where we want to be, because when we start to harvest coconuts, we want to get it to where you can roll the wheelbarrow, harvest the coconuts, get it to the front gate, get it sold, and it's done. You're not, I mean, look at the other side. You can't even get a wheelbarrow or a cart through there. It's just too hard to harvest that way, in my point of view. Here, you can take the wheelbarrow and just harvest coconuts from one tree to the next. There's nothing in your way. There's nothing dangerous hindering your path. You're not going to trip on anything. You're not going to be stepping over snakes and other things that you can't see. This is where we want to be. This is how I want to maintain the property. This is what Rex knows I expect that they do. And I'm just lucky that he's there along with my niece, along with Tonton, that if I need something, I can call on them, from the States, and I know I can rely on it to get done. Um, Here you see, I think this is either Father or June, the matinee idol. Um, Keep going on with the grass cutting. And this is how it should look. This is how I expect it to look. I'm modeling my farm um, with the thought in mind that it will be like Chick and Will's farm in Aussie farming in the Philippines. This is not going to be a farm that is loaded with trash, garbage, loud music, filthy dogs that are running everywhere. That dog you saw there was not my dog. That's the neighbor's dog.